Fragments of Silicon, guaranteed to never fire our entire creative team for not meeting production goals.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining as always, our Galax and Petty Fan. Petty Fan and Galax, if you will. Let us get to the news, as we do every week. Oh, let us see. Galax, why don't you go first?
Well, it's a much less exciting week than last week was, so that's something. Nothing super interesting going on in my personal life, I don't think, although I did today buy an owlbear plush, or order an owlbear plush for my nephew for Christmas, because hopefully I'll be able to actually see them for that since I had to miss the birthday. Other than that, work is still work, and most other things are still other things. Video game wise, I got the new Zelda and Ganondorf amiibos, so I've been going back to Tears of the Kingdom a bit to
do those do anything special, or is it just like a special drop table?
Special drop table. They have exclusive paraglider cloths, and the Ganondorf can drop the gloom weapons. Or the demon, the ones that Phantom Ganon drops.
I've not gotten that far yet.
But they're also... Have you ever seen the really creepy hands?
Maybe very early on. I got distracted by other games.
You can find them about as early as right near where you find Hestu for the first time if you follow the recommended path. But you're not really supposed to you're not really supposed to actually beat them the first time you see them. Anyway, there's a club, a katana, and a naginata that all are very powerful but pretty low durability and do gloom damage to you. Every couple hits with them. Not much. And if you're not in the depths, it recovers very quickly. But they can be worth it sometimes. Anyway, they're just slightly... You have to put in some effort to get them, is the main thing. But anyway, they have unique paraglider patterns is the main thing that's actually exclusive. And they're nice little figurines, which is half of why I get them.
That's like most of the reason to collect amiibos. Like, if I get the chance, I want to try and get the Sora one because Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that one's even up for pre-order in most places yet.
It should be up for pre-order sometime in the next few weeks. I think it's coming out in December.
Might be. Anyway, so yeah, I've been doing that. Been catching up on Splatoon 3, and apparently they announced a new Splatfest for which they are giving up their previous statement thing for this game of all of the Splatfests are going to be global, even though the matchmaking isn't global anyway. So for in the US, I believe we're getting what's your favorite kind of greeting, handshake, fist bump, or hug. And in Japan,
Ogre sent us in our little Twitter group.
Mm-hmm. And in Japan, they're getting the they're apparently getting a, what do you call this particular regional pastry? Which apparently has 3 different names.
Because Japan.
Note in Japan, the Japanese exclusive Splatfest themes have often been weird things like that. Like, what's your favorite of these, like, 2 very specific food things? That kind of thing. Anyway, so that, and still playing Pokemon Scarlet. I have a few more things to breed. I'm almost done breeding the team of things that need to go to Legends Arceus to evolve. That I will then go play that.
Does any of the DLC have regional exclusive or game exclusive stuff, or can I get all of it in one game? Like, is there stuff out?
There's an Ursaluna available in Kitakami, but it's a different form. The form of Basculin that can evolve into Basky Legion is just native in Hisui or is just native in Kitakami normally.
I'm more talking like Scarlet and Violet differences.
Oh, version exclusives?
Yeah, version. That's what I meant.
Morpeko versus Cramorant and frick, what's their names? I have the image. It's there are basically one standalone and one 2-stage evolution line that are version exclusive. None of them are amazing.
Yeah, but if I want to complete the decks, then you may need to hook up later.
To actually do the trading, yes. And you can get those. The Pokemon are available without the DLC.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're in the game.
Well, I have the
just
DLC.
not.
I just need to progress. Okay.
And I did manage to get the what was it? Fire Hisuian Hisuian Typhlosion.
Fuck, that was out.
This
is
past
it still
week.
Going on, or is it over?
It will be running again next weekend, I believe.
All right, because I know the one I got in Arceus, the stats kind of suck. So.
It's Apom and Bipom versus Gligar Gliscor is the other exclusive. Gligar and Cramorant are the Scarlet ones.
Nifty.
Anyway, that won't be hard to do sometime. I'm very experienced at running people around for version exclusive things. I actually helped D-Patrick with that a while ago. It was pretty fun. But that's about all I got to talk about, I think.
Okay.
Hooray.
Well, Betty, you're up.
Let's see. The big thing is over the weekend we got my niece her Nintendo Switch Lite because her father's a jackass and doesn't let her play video games. So
is the Nintendo Switch Lite somewhere where it will not be taken away from her?
Well, like, it's one of those things that the parents don't know yet.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, well, it's like she's 13, so like
I'm just saying it would suck if you gave her a nice present and then, like, she brings it home and her dad takes it away.
Like, yeah, hopefully that's not an issue. It shouldn't be. But if it is, he's gonna get an earful. Because they just live down in Texas. Like, it's a drive, but if we need to go beat somebody's ass. But yeah, we got her the Animal Crossing Switch Lite. Her favorite color is blue, so we got her the turquoise one. And so she's gonna have Animal Crossing. We also got her Sonic Origins Plus because she thinks Sonic's cool. Which cool.
Not way past cool.
Yeah, she hasn't had her hopes and dreams crushed yet.
Yeah, let's
a stint in the Sonic fandom will fix that.
Yeah, let's let her have her fun with the classic
Look, she's still
series.
13. She may not have developed the level of media literacy and the body of experience to fully realize that some of these games are bad yet.
I'm just talking about the fandom.
Yeah, as long
Like,
as her parents don't let her explore the internet without safe search, we're fine for a few years.
yeah, I'm like, I'm
And
talking
as long
about
as
the
she doesn't
game.
try to
Like,
do her name the hedgehog, we're fine.
yeah,
Besides, they've had a pretty good run of games that don't completely suck.
Mm-hmm.
once again, we're not talking about the games. We're talking about the
Yeah.
The fandom's a
ephemera around the
cesspit.
game.
I'm part of the fandom.
Yeah, look, they're one of the more infamous fandoms out there. That
Mm-hmm.
takes work.
Yeah.
Very, very horrible work that we will not mention here anymore.
Yeah, and then we also
Anyway,
got her Pokemon Scarlet version because I have Violet. So if she needs some Pokemon to finish her decks, come talk to Uncle.
this is like when Ogre buys Pokemon games for Naka.
Hmm.
Man, I am once again disappointed what I get from My Name the Hedgehog. They're all just very generic.
Same, but my name's also fairly common anyway. Um,
Like,
I did beat the I guess main story of Sonic Superstars. There is the alternate story that opened up after the first clear. So working through that, it's basically hard mode, and yeah, with the character you get in that, it's kind of difficult. So that's something I've been muddling through.
Oh, that reminds me, I did have one other thing. I picked up Super Mario Brothers Wonder, but I haven't played it much yet.
Mm.
yeah. Right.
And
Anything else?
um, well, there is something fun we're going to be doing next weekend. Um, my sister and I are going to. It's called a Discover Scuba class that we're just gonna give it a try because local dive shops having a free um thing. So
Hmm.
Might be fun, I suppose.
yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to try it, but you know, dropping several, dropping almost $1,000 ahead just to go out towards the ocean is a little tall of an ask. This way,
Especially for you. Like, what
mm-hmm.
ocean?
The Ocean of Misery.
Yes, at least this one's in a at a pool for the like
Yeah.
indoor class thing, and then if we like it, we can always see about looking into traveling and actually getting certified and stuff like that. And if we don't, then hey, it's something we gave a shot. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say.
Uh-huh.
And then um yeah, I think that is it for me.
All right. I guess it's my go. Let's see. I suppose following up from last week, I did get a call from my doctor's office the other day, um, confirming that okay, that oh yeah, they did need to send information to the mail order people about my medication. That they needed to sign off on that.
Mm.
Like, but the real fun part is, apparently my doctor wanted to come in because I hadn't been there until May, and I had been there literally last week.
Oh, it's one of those somebody forgot to fill a form out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hate
Like,
those.
yeah, and yeah, I kind of exploded at that
Hmm.
because I'm like, wait, what? Like, because they, the lady remembered me, like, so things got smoothed over, I think.
Right.
I'm going to give them a call on Friday to make sure things have been taken care of properly, because that was kind of a shit show on
I
their
would
part.
imagine. I've been dealing with
So
that too somewhat, but
yeah, and I want to make sure that doesn't actually affect the refilling of medications,
right.
because I don't want my blood sugar to go awry.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm presuming here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, let's see. In gaming news, I have, in addition to the usual review stuff, um, I have been playing Zork Grand Inquisitor, and yeah, that's been a rekindling, because I'm like, a lot, I played a fair amount of Zork games growing up.
mm-hmm. Back
Not so
in
much
the
the
olden times.
not as old as you might think,
I
because
know. It's more the joke.
no, let me finish.
Mm.
Like, my experience is more like the later games of Beyond Zork and Zork Zero, than the original trilogy. Like, I didn't play that until the '90s, when we got the Lost Treasures of Infocom. I think that was alongside Return to Zork. The point is, I am rather well acquainted with the Zork universe. Not completely. Like, I've never actually played any of the Enchanter games, though. Knowing what I know about the Enchanter games, I think I'm fine with that. They're much harder than the Zork games, especially Spellbreaker. Like, but Zork Grand Inquisitor is one I have played before, back when I had a Game Tab subscription, back when that was a thing. Like, I played through that one. And it's as good as I remember it. Granted, we are talking about memories of not that long ago, maybe a decade. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's all my news for the week. And we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is Brad Austrin of Graphite Lab.
Hello.
Hello. Right. So you are a new face of an old friend, so to speak. As in, we have had representative of Graphite Lab on the program, usually Mike. But you're new here. So why don't we delve into your background as a starting point? And
Sure.
we're going to do that by asking this particular question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
Ooh, tricky. So, I grew up like a lot of people, they inherit like consoles and stuff from like cousins. So, growing up, I did grow up with an Atari knockoff. Sorry, Atari. Uh, it was called the Coleco Gemini, and that was kind of my first exposure to, playing games. And it was all, fun and cool back then. Um, then fast forward to when I was in kindergarten, I started getting into, cartoons, Power Rangers, cool action stuff. And I don't know if you all remember, but in the 90s, there was a Transformers spinoff called Beast Wars.
I do
And
remember them.
cool. Beast Wars, it had a
That is the
PlayStation.
age I am of.
Ah, you're just like me. Cool. But yeah, Beast Wars, it had a video game for PlayStation, and I don't remember how exactly I heard about it. I think it might have been like a magazine ad or something, but I was so into it back then, and looking at it, I was like, wow, it's a way to like, make my own episode, kind of like playing with toys, but like, I could do it through a digital form. And in my, childlike brain, I just saw the endless potential of what I could do. So, I begged my parents and grandparents, and my brother did as well. And for Christmas that year, we got a PlayStation, and that was kind of how we began, our journey into video games. So we played Beast Wars, we got Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, a lot of the PlayStation staples, and from there I was just like so fascinated with just like the way it all worked, and as I got older, like I started to really get very interested in like the storytelling and like the medium, and kind of like examining it with more of a critical eye, and seeing it as like an adjacent to like movies, TV shows, books. And yeah, from there, I wanted to kind of be a film director for a little while, but I played a few games pre-college that kind of got that idea in my head, like, you know what, I kind of want to make games. I know it's kind of got this like stigma of being difficult because of like programming and some of the technical hurdles, but I still want to try. So I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in programming, and yeah, I ended up at Graphite Lab, and I've been here for 9.5 years now.
Now, is Graphite Lab your only job that you've done in the video game industry?
Yes. So I began as an intern, and from there I became a part timer while I was still in college, and then it kind of evolved from there. So I became full time when I graduated from college, and yeah, I just kind of kept staying and kept going.
That's good. Was there any particular reason you went to Graphite Lab?
It was pretty close to where I lived at the time, and I was pretty surprised. Like, it was that college time. You're looking for jobs, and of course, I still had the pie in the sky. Like, I really want to work, for a game studio, and I miraculously learned that I had one that was nearly just down the street, which was pretty crazy to me. So, I learned from the website. They had like an internship program. I learned that they wanted portfolios and stuff, and by that time, I'd been making little personal projects just on my own, fiddling around with little tools or making things on like paper. So I whipped things together pretty quick, and I applied for the internship, which I ended up getting.
Well, that's good. And what were some of your like internship roles, if you will, in part-time work? What were your, as they say, dues paying?
Oh, let's see. The early days, it was a lot of like analysis, I guess you could say. It was a lot of like playing like competitor titles or playing like reference titles, kind of learning about like what makes them tick, what they like contain in them. For example, if we were making a presentation to propose, an app that was like a runner, I would have to take a look at some of the runners on like the App Store that were very popular, make notes about, the key features, things that were different between them, and present that to the game designer of the time, and kind of talk with him and learn about how he would like distill that into a presentable like pitch for the new project.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at what point did you get promoted to not upper echelons, but trying to remember, like you're the project manager of Quam 2?
No, so for Quant 2, I was the lead designer.
Lead designer, there we go.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. But the question still remains: like, is this your first time in the lead designer position?
No, I've spent, several years kind of leading like design on mostly like mobile games or web games. A lot of the stuff we've done in the past has been, things for like kids or like licensed games, for certain brands like a Transformers or a My Little Pony. So I've had experience, leading and looking at like brands and kind of doing what I learned, in a sense as an intern, but doing that plus, designing and leading and, kind of building up to the more senior version of that role.
Right. And well, I suppose we should get into the game at hand, so to speak. That is Quamp 2. Now, by an amazing coincidence, we actually had the creator of Quamp 1 on the program not too long ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Granted, that was, like I said, that was talking about his latest game. But we did remark in that interview that this was coming up as well. So, a small world. But my first question here is, who approached who about the idea of doing a sequel to Quam? Was this an Atari idea and they wanted you to do it, or is this something you pitched to Atari?
So this came to us from Atari, and it was basically because of kind of the collaborations we've done in the past. And at the time, we were fresh off of Combinera, which was another Atari gig that we did last year. And they saw, it was a very minimalist, like puzzle style game, 2D, kind of similar to Quamp. And they had just published the original game, and they loved it so much that they wanted to make a sequel. So they came to us. It wasn't like, you guys are going to make it, 100%. They came to us to kind of, see what we could do, put our pitch forward, see what we could offer, because they were generally interested, but it didn't mean it necessarily had to be a Graphite gig.
Right. And were you a part of the pitch process?
Yes. So I actually wrote the pitch myself, really. So our team kind of splintered after Combinera. We had some people go directly to Run and Jump, which just came out in the summer.
Yeah,
And
we covered that not too long ago.
you did, yes. So, most of our team went to that. I did not work on Run and Jump. So instead, when I finished, basically my boss, Matt Braithel, he came to me and he, brought this to my attention, that Atari wanted to try a Quamp. So, at the time I hadn't heard of Quamp at all, admittedly, but he basically told me like, hey, get familiar, let's see what we can offer, because I think we did a great job on Combinera and this seems like a fun opportunity. So I sat down, I played Quamp 1, and really the ideas for the sequel hit me pretty quick, like within the first 20 minutes of when I played the first. So that day I made some notes, fleshed it out, and I got the pitch together and we sent it to Atari, and here we are. I guess it happened.
And how long ago was that?
That was around, I want to say it was around May or June of last year. So it was before the summertime.
So you've been working on Quamp 2 for, let's say, 18 months?
No, so this one has been an interesting case where we kind of finished the project a bit early, and we passed it off to Atari, and it kind of waits for their call, so for a while, the team at Graphite didn't even know the launch window for the game. It was more of a make it and we'll kind of figure out where it goes later kind of deal. So no, the development period wasn't that long.
Oh, gotta admit that is a bit unusual. Not unprecedented, but it's not often we get people on the program that tells us that their work is done and just kind of sitting in the digital warehouse. But such is the developer publisher relationship, I suppose. Anyway, So I'm hoping we can get into some detail here, but I'm not exactly sure how much, given that Atari hasn't shown off that much of Quamp 2 yet. Like we've got the trailer playing here. We've had it playing during the interview, but I think that's about it as far as released media so far. But probe ahead we shall. And what I want to ask here is, what new ideas are you bringing to the Quamp formula? What is going to be your stamp on this franchise?
That's a great question. And when I approached it, one of the big things I wanted to do was to retain a lot of what made the first one special. So to me, it was important to capture that feeling without over adding elements. But of course, this new game has new elements as well.
Mhm.
And the biggest new concept that we've added to this game is a dash, which is pretty common in lots of games, but it allows you to press and hold a button and release it to move your ball faster. And this comes into play, with obstacles. There's certain obstacles that are reactive to the color blue, which is the color of the dash. So that's how you make the connection in the game to understand what you would need to do with the dash. And of course, it also plays in for speedrunning, which was also an element that had an audience for the first Quamp. So if you're playing well enough, you can really capitalize on the dash mechanic to move fast and clean. But of course, you can't do it if you're not good or confident about your puzzle solving skills, and you'll crash into a spike or something.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
The ball, when it's not bouncing off of things, how do you control it?
So the ball is controlled with a single button for the direction change. And this is identical to the first Quamp. So when you push a button, it basically reflects the angle of the ball. And, you can push that rapidly to squeeze between strange situations, or you can wait until the ball hits a wall where it'll kind of react like the breakout, like the Pong, where it'll kind of react to the angle change and so on.
And how does it decide which way to reflect?
So the reflectiveness is kind of based on I guess you could say, the algorithm of the old breakouts and the old Pongs. So it kind of depends on the angle of movement and the current direction, and kind of like the positioning of the wall. So if you were to hit a wall, it's kind of close to an upper corner. It'll know to move you in that direction cleanly instead of backwards. So it always has this feeling that you're moving in a forward direction. So you'll never have those situations where you'll hit a wall and you'll just kind of reflect backwards. So it's always got that.
Okay,
forward.
so there's an algorithm that judges your overall direction of motion and decides which way to reflect you based on that.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And this might sound a bit unusual at first for those who might not be familiar with the Quamp series, but what is the story that's going on here in Quamp 2? Because that's kind of part of what the Quamp is selling itself on. What if there was basically Pong but a story, Breakout but a story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can't go into too much detail for two reasons, really. The first is because we haven't shown off much, but really the most important reason is because it's such a minimalist game. But I can answer your question to a degree. So Quamp 2 isn't a direct sequel. If you've played the first one, that one is pretty conclusive in its ending. So this game focuses on a new ball that's kind of going through similar circumstances that the ball did in the first game. And if you've played the first game, or if you haven't, basically the ball in the first game felt trapped between the Pong paddles, and it wanted to break out to get its freedom. And different with this ball is it kind of deals with this pressure, this struggle differently. And as you might have noticed in the trailer, early on, you can see it kind of get taken in by its own fears, and it actually mutates into a new shape. It mutates into a circle. And the tagline for Quamp 1, it always says that it's a game about freedom. And I like to say that Quamp 2 is a game about identity.
Uh-huh. Like, that is a interesting spin on things, if nothing else. Like, especially since, as you mentioned, this is a very minimalist game, and that is a very heavy subject.
Yes, quite understandably. And it was interesting, working on a game with a minimalist story, especially with, like a publisher and a bigger team, because games like this are traditionally done either by like an individual or like a very small team. So
Mhm.
we were very careful to basically create like very like you know core themes, core images that we wanted to work off of with the story, and we decide, of course, to leave much of it open to interpretation. So
Right.
I had to wrangle like my personal interpretation to get everyone on board, to make sure things weren't like all random, but there is purposeful, and I like to think it's meaningful, of course, but it's up to the player to take away what they will from it. But we spent a lot of time, making sure things that were integrated in the game are kind of fair game for good interpretation.
Hmm. And in terms of the design of the game, um, would you quantify this as a Metroidvania?
No, I would quantify this basically how the original Quamp flowed. So that was like a very stage by stage progression. Um, this time,
It doesn't look like you're really obtaining new persistent powers much.
No,
no.
but people who might see this trailer might think it's another indie Metroidvania title.
I
Like,
suppose.
Yeah, that's
I get,
valid.
I just do want to make sure that's clear more than
Yeah.
anything else.
And there's a brief second or two in the trailer, but you can see our world map, which is a little reminiscent of the first game. But the stage progression is a little bit like the Mario World style, where you've got your map and there's the nodes you kind of move between to progress.
Hmm. Like, and will you be dealing with any sort of power ups at all, or is it just paddle and ball here?
So it's just paddle and ball. But one of the things that I think made the first Quamp very interesting was that every stage had its own gimmick, had its own thing that was new and interesting. So we've managed to keep that tradition here in the second game. So every level you play, you should see something new and exciting.
Mm. And like perhaps that is an expectation from Quamp 1 veterans. Like, I'm guessing that specific examples have to be kept under lock and key currently.
Yes, but if it's in the trailer, I might be able to talk a bit about it.
Okay, so are any of those bits in the trailer?
You can, kind of see some mechanics throughout. You
Uh,
can see like the pushable blue blocks, the fireballs, the what we call vacuums, the monster, the electric. So there's kind of quick glimpses of all kinds of little things we've got in here.
right. Um, Now, I should also ask: is there an actual paddle in this?
Yes. So similar to the first Quamp, you'll come across some paddles in your journey as well.
Okay. Yeah, which does cut down the need for, let's say, radial movement,
Mm-hmm.
which has always been a issue I've had with a lot of Pong style games on systems that don't have, like, have you ever played the original Pong?
Yes.
Like, then you know how that's controlled, right?
Right.
Like, so for those who have not indulged in that, or Breakout or Arkanoid or any one of these brick breakers or Pong likes, you like that back with the original arcade Pong and the Atari 2600 version, you had to use a dial to control it because that's how you got the precision movement needed to move the paddle around. And it's always been a problem and a pet peeve of mine with a lot of, let's say, modern brick breakers. At least if I'm forced to use a controller, it's not so bad with a mouse or a trackball, but an analog stick doesn't exactly have the precision you want for Pong. So, um, was that at all a hindrance in the development of the game?
No, not at all. Because actually, the ball moves forward automatically, and you change its direction by pushing one of the face buttons, or if you're on PC, it's on the mouse click. So you can precisely maneuver it with just that single button. And we do have some obstacles in there too that helps your ball kind of center or realign. So we have some tools that players can use in certain places as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. So shifting a bit, um, what engine was this game built in?
So this game is built in Unity.
There we go. Um, so yeah, I'm now kind of required to ask if you'll be continuing on with Unity in the future, given the recent developments.
Yes, the recent developments. Well, speaking for the studio at Graphite Lab, our plan is to continue. We think that, like, of course the situation was awful, and I was definitely one of those people who brought that to our boss's attention, and I was like, "Hey, what's up here? We gotta be careful with this guy. He used to work for EA. I know all about him. Um, but we decided, after the apology, after the guy resigned, like, at least in the short term, we're gonna keep using Unity. A lot of our tool sets and a lot of our team know-how is done, through Unity. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, like, being reliant on a single engine may never be good, especially when circumstances like this happen. So I wouldn't put it out of the cards for us to, begin exploring other engine options and figure out how to get our tools working in different places.
Understandable. But yeah, it's like options are, there's a lot of them, but they would definitely take investment.
Yeah. The
Just to,
Unity situation definitely got a lot of devs on their "oh crap, what is our backup plan" type
Yeah,
going on.
yeah,
yeah.
and we've used other engines in the past. Like, Unity hasn't been our single go-to tool, but of course, like, the projects where we have used other engines, it definitely takes production time to onboard and train people how to use things. So
Mm-hmm.
it's preferable for us to stay where we're at if possible.
And like with the probably a part of the issue with Unity has been such a juggernaut for the past years, a lot of people
I'd say,
learned on it in school.
yeah,
This was the engine that their school used, and then they're like, have to figure out something else. I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, there was a lot of backstabbing, and considering, I mean, we've made dozens and dozens of games with Unity, phones, consoles, whatever, and just considering all that we've launched and like any fees that could have potentially hit us for those titles, it's just
Yeah, I
sickening to
imagine you
think about.
probably would be in the group that if they actually were allowed to make the retroactive fees, it probably would have killed Graphite Labs.
I mean, it's hard to say, of course, but it definitely would have done us no good if it continued on that track.
hmm. Well, hopefully things will be actually smoothed over, but I suppose time will tell on that front.
Mm.
Anyway, so I'm assuming that Quamp 2 here is being aimed for all the major platforms.
Yes, so Quant 2 will launch on all major consoles. So the Switch, it's coming to PlayStation 4 and 5. It's coming to the Xbox Series. It's coming to PC, if I didn't mention that already. And it's coming to the VCS as well.
Right. And I'm assuming in terms of PC storefronts, it's going to be Steam and the Epic Game Store.
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, it's pretty much everywhere and anywhere you would want to purchase it.
Pretty much. And I wouldn't object if you purchased it on multiple storefronts or all of them. If you want to purchase it on all of them, go ahead.
Hell, buy it for
Yeah.
your friends. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Buy it for your friends. Yes.
Well, is there any sort of multiplayer component in Quamp 2?
No, Quamp 2 is purely a single player experience.
Not a surprise, honestly, given what the game is, and indeed Quamp 1 we're going for. But, I suppose there's, always the original to play if you really want to get that avenue out of the way. Like, anyway, speaking of such things, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this question, but I do have to ask it given the your previous release. But did you at all or conceive of a Atari 2600 version of Quamp 2?
No, we haven't considered or conceived or anything like that. I know we did the Run and Jump Classic, which was a homebrew project of one of our programmers. But in Quamp's case, no, we haven't considered or done anything of the sort. But I think it sounds cool.
Yeah.
The concept is interesting. I don't know if we would. We haven't like done that kind of development in house. It wouldn't use Unity, of course.
Oh,
We would
God.
have to go super old school
Yeah.
on that one.
Looking
But
at all the physics stuff going on in the trailer, good luck getting it to run on the 2600.
Maybe aiming for the Atari Jaguar would be a more viable option
oh,
here.
the
Jaguar
Jaguar,
would be an interesting
Yeah,
dev challenge.
and it's got a pretty robust homebrew scene.
It sure does. It has
There's
a
a
cult following.
Jaguar fan somewhere in the audience who's like, Jaguar game? Jaguar game?
Actually, I can't go into too much detail, but if you are a Jaguar fan, there is something in Quamp 2 for you. That's all I can say.
Ooh,
Oh no.
a tease.
Stay tuned.
Like,
Wink, nudge, nudge. Go buy Quamp 2. Wink, wink.
Go buy it. Yes.
you'll be attacked by mutant penguins.
No! You're an
Not that.
asshole, Adam.
It's relevant.
I know it's relevant, but also go screw yourself.
Like I was the one who had to review that.
You made me play it.
I know. Look, I had to share in the pain. Like, anyway, refocusing here. So, tell us a bit about the music in Quamp 2, if any.
Yeah, so the music we got an in-house guy to record it. We made several tracks. I can't go into too much detail, of course, but we've managed to make dynamic music in this game, which means as you play and do certain things in levels, you'll notice layers of the music change. So you might progress to like water and hear drums pull away, or you might finish a level and hear everything but like the ambience kind of clear away. So we've got some very, very interesting like reactive music in this game.
Like, that does sound intriguing, if nothing else. Um, it's kind of hard to comment further, having not heard any of the music yet. Outside
Yeah,
of what may have been in the trailer.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
totally understandable. Yeah, and it's the best I can say is, stay tuned for gameplay footage, and
Yeah.
when you kind of see it in action, you'll hear some of the samples.
Right. Let me see here. So, do you know the release of Quamp 2 yet, or is that still being deliberated by Atari?
That's actually something I cannot share yet. So the best I can say is look forward to it early next year.
Interesting. And pricing, has pricing been sorted out?
Pricing wise, I am not in the loop on that one, so you'll have to stay tuned as well for the final decision there. But I can almost guarantee you this is not going to be $60, so do not worry about that.
I suppose final question along these lines is, will Quamp 2 get a physical release, or is it going to be digital only?
So that's a tricky one, and really it's more of a question for Atari. I know I would personally love to see it, and the best I can say is if you're interested, just let Atari know.
Fair enough. Let's see, and I suppose my final question at this juncture is not necessarily about Quamp 2, but I do have to bring it up since this game was announced recently. No, I'm not sure your relation with it, and that is High Jump Survivor.
Yeah, we did just announce that. I haven't worked on it, and I've
Uh,
honestly only known of its existence relatively recently, but I'm aware of it.
okay, just needed to figure out the information vestibule there. Like, probably speak to like Mike or other people at Graphite Lab about it later.
Yeah, for that one, our best bet would be to talk with Matt Rathel, our studio director.
Right, right. Um, so that concludes my line of questions. Alex Petty, you got anything further?
I think I'm good.
I think I covered mine.
All right. So yeah, Brad, it was wonderful having you on our program and to talk about Quamp 2 here. Um,
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
and hopefully we'll have you back again when whatever you're working on right now is ready to be talked about.
Sure. Yeah, just let me know.
Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, the game is Quamp 2. It's coming to pretty much any modern system you can think of or storefront. I suppose if you are gaming via GOG, that might be an issue, but outside of that, um, you can go and wishlist this on Steam right now. And I would recommend doing that since that helps with the algorithm of that platform and all that visibility, blah 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 blah. Like, and yeah, look forward to it sometime in the new year. Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. All right. So, welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. Right. So, this week we are talking about Spider-Man games. Like, obviously, because there has been a new Spider-Man released recently, though not just any Spider-Man game, the Insomniac Spider-Man 2, which is being rightfully so being treated as an event. Um, an event I haven't, it's like the Insomniac Spider-Man games have climbed mountains that the Spider-Man franchise hasn't climbed since maybe the PlayStation 2 days. And even then, I don't think like Spider-Man, the movie, the game, or any of its sequels have done quite as well as Insomniac's Spider-Man games have.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this is that at least arguably, it's relatively recently that console technology has gotten to the point where you can meaningly traverse a significant area in a Spider-Man-ish way.
Well, and I guess
That's not true.
moreover, the big issue has been most Spider-Man games have just been shovelware.
I mean,
That-
obviously that too, yes.
Yeah, that's more accurate to say. Now, the traversal of Spider-Man has been a thing since literally the very beginning. Because Spider-Man, not surprisingly, is one of the oldest licensed properties in all of video gaming.
Making sense because he's one of like the three most popular and recognizable superheroes.
Yeah. He wasn't the first superhero license game. That, I believe, goes to Superman on the Atari 2600.
It was either, I don't remember if it was 2600 or Commodore, but it was definitely old.
Yeah. Oh no. There was a Spider-Man game on the Atari 2600. I've played it.
You
Again,
wish you didn't.
And going back to the traversal thing, the way Spider-Man for the Atari 2600 controlled is you were Spider-Man and you had to web up a building in order to stop the bombs of the Green Goblin, like, which is helpfully explained in the commercial I posted in the Discord the other day. This is why it's important to watch the things I put in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And not the only Spider-Man game that did that kind of traversal, because the Spider-Man game that I had as a kid was Spider-Man for the Game Boy, which
Oh yeah, it could be done in 2D.
Yeah, which mixed the traversal thing I mentioned there, like it was remarkably similar to the Atari 2600 game, though worse. And it combined that with, bog standard licensed late 80s, early 90s platforming. And walk and brawl. Kind of a mixture of that, kind of what you would expect from a Spider-Man game of that age, only just completely awful. Even as a kid, I knew it wasn't too good, but I played it anyway because you're a kid and you play what you have.
That's a mood.
I'm like, look, granted, in terms of mediocre licensed titles on the Game Boy. I was much more a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan. Mainly because I was a much bigger Turtles fan than I was a Spider-Man fan. But I'm going to at some point, most gamers or people who play games will have probably experienced a Spider-Man title or two, because Spider-Man is like Marvel's Batman in that he has appeared in a shitload of games. And we don't have the bandwidth here to go through all of them meticulously, nor the patience to delve into every stinky, smelly release put out by fucking LJN and or Acclaim, because there were a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I will grant that, I haven't played Spider-Man Return of the Sinister Six for the NES, but once again, it's got the LJN label on it, so I'm going to presume it wasn't too good. I know there's somebody on YouTube that's donned the gimmick of the LJN Defender. Oh, for fuck's sake.
We would advise them please get help from a trained therapist.
Or at least come on to the MSP show so we can understand the thought process behind this.
When you die, make sure your brain is intact so we can figure out where God went wrong.
Because okay, Maximum Carnage wasn't bloody awful, but it was still pretty as a brawler.
Mm. I think
But
we had the animated series Genesis tie-in one, and oh boy, was that bad.
Yeah, I also played the animated series game, but I played it on the Super Nintendo. Not sure how much of a difference that makes. That's for console wars to figure out.
Yeah, I was about to say we know a guy who'd probably look into that if we told him to.
Yeah, but I think broadly you can divide the outside of one-offs. You can broadly divide the eras of Spider-Man games from LJN, LJN Acclaim, because at a certain point in time, they did become the same company.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time previous where they were separate companies. In fact, LJN was primarily a toy company. In fact, that's how they got bought out by Acclaim, because one of their toys failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you got LJN and Acclaim, and they were the bog standard terrible license games that you think of from that era,
Mm-hmm.
by and large. Like I said, to get into the individual quirks or milieu and minutia of each one, we'll leave that to the mediocre Spider-Man.
Which, yes, for further research into this subject.
Yeah. Like I said, there's just so many of these, and most of them are just, awful.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really have access to playing them right now, nor do we want to play them. And then
most of them are not good.
No. And then you've got the Activision era, which I suppose could be split off into its own set of eras. You've got the beginning era, where you've got Neversoft Spider-Man, which kind of established Spider-Man as a quality franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Maybe
saying
do with the
that.
Tony Hawk engine.
Yeah, I think that was done in the Tony Hawk engine.
I'm like 70% sure that's what they use. That's partly why there is a Spider-Man model in one of the Tony Hawk games. They were
I
using it
think
for testing.
I think Spider-Man. Um, and there was also the Sega games on the Genesis. Did almost forget about those. Those were better. Like
Some of them.
Generally better than what Acclaim was putting out.
Valid.
It's like even bad Sega is better than bad Acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will fight people on this. But anyway, like Activision, like Spider-Man for the PlayStation 1 and assorted ports. Really, the first time I can think of where Spider-Man was treated well.
Mm-hmm.
That's mainly because I didn't really grow up with the Sega Spider-Man games. I'm not saying it's the first good Spider-Man game. It's the first one I remember being good.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to make the distinction there. But as much as I would like to pontificate on this further, we are kind of running low on time here. Like, so I'll wrap it up here because people are apparently jumping in.
Yep.
Anyway, so on that note, we'll probably talk more about this next week.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. So coming up on the week ahead, if I can get to the right page here. Coming up on Friday, November 10th, we'll be having Marcus Horn of Ciatrico. I still don't know how to pronounce this, but he's the developer of like Super Kiwi 64, Tori 3D, both of which we've reviewed recently. We'll be talking about his latest platforming game, Tori Saturn. Coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Crimson Tactics, The Rise of the White Banner, Gunhead, Anodyne Remastered, and Super Lumberjack. And we do have a new episode of MSP happening in about 15 minutes, or so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so until then, I shall wish you good gaming.